welcome to episode 108 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
We're almost to Justice League. And so, in light of that, we decided this week to talk about the 4 DCEU films that have already been made, so to speak. And so, this is our Road to Justice League episode. I actually watched all 4 movies back to back, like 4 days in a row, because I've been sick at home. So, what are you going to do? Watch some DC movies, I guess. Even though I've got like a shitload of movie or TVs and movies to catch up on, I went ahead and rewatched these. and you'll find out as we talk about them that 3 out of the 4 were pretty painful to rewatch.
Which our tons and tons of listeners out there already know that we're not a big fan of these movies, not because we're like DC fanboys, but because they're not very good. We will tell you why, but basically we wanted a refresher course so you didn't have to sit through 10 hours almost of
quite a bit,
only 4 movies. I mean, like Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition was 3 hours. 3 fucking hours. It took me 3 days just to get through Man of Steel. So we're gonna try to talk about new things that we don't know. We've ad nausea pretty much talked about these fucking movies, but we're gonna try to go through them and try to get you up to speed about what happened leading up to this point. So we've got Man of Steel started in what, 2014, 2013?
2013, they introduced the Man of Steel, which apparently was supposed to be the introduction of the DC universe.
Right. Even though it was a very much standalone movie, it was our reintroduction to Superman. We had already had Christopher Reeve do some really good ones, do some really bad ones. We had the kind of divisive Superman Returns. I have always been on the side that I loved Brandon Routh in the movie. And the problem was rehashing basically Superman 1 in the movie, except that Superman this time was a deadbeat dad. But I loved Brandon Routh in this movie. I absolutely loved him as Superman, loved him as Clark, and I thought he got shafted in a really shitty movie. Ironically, it was between Brandon Routh and Henry Cavill for that Superman Returns movie.
Why did they? So did they went with Brandon Routh that time because why? Because he kind of imitated or he was very similar to Christopher Reeve. Is that like a more
maybe I think that was it. I mean, but there's certain scenes where you're like, okay, he's pulling a Christopher Reeve here, but it's very smooth. But when he's Clark, he's his own Clark.
Mm-hmm.
But he still has that very Kansas boyish charm to him, which is what is really missing from Man of Steel's Clark Kent. You don't get that Kansas Smallville type vibe from him. You get basically an emo Superman, an emo Clark Kent. You don't get to see every time you see Clark in this movie, whether it be the young Clark or the Clark later on when he becomes Superman, he's fucking like either depressed, sad, angry, annoyed, something. It's never happy.
No.
I think the only happy time he might have been was when he was kissing Lois in front of the entire world to see. So anyway, so you don't get that. His Clark Kent is not very different from Superman at all.
Right.
At all.
It's pretty easy to go like, hey, you're Superman.
Especially since everybody got a very up close look at Superman first, and then all of a sudden this guy Clark Kent shows up at the Daily Planet.
Right.
And again, his hair is like, if it ever rains and Clark Kent runs his fingers through his hair, and he has to clean his glasses, somebody's gonna be like, that's Superman. Right there.
Yeah, because they're both built like freaking Greek gods. It's ridiculous.
I mean, at least with the Christopher Reeve version and the Brandon Routh version, they kind of dressed him down a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and Henry Cavill is a good-looking man. Like, he's basically a model, right?
Right.
And when he's in his flannel and glasses, he just looks like millennial hot, like fucking
Abercrombie Fitch
Abercrombie
models,
Fitch guy. You know, like it doesn't matter what this dude wears. Like, or actually, it might if they tried to attempt to dress him down, but. This guy, you could just look at Henry Cavill in that flannel and that jacket and the glasses. You'd be like, I bet you he's fucking jacked. He looks jacked. You know what I mean? Like his his supposedly loose fitting flannel thing. Like he stands up to talk to Perry, and you're like, holy shit, that dude's jacked. Like he doesn't need a Superman suit to realize that this guy's jacked, right? Yeah. That guy looks like Superman. So. I mean, at least with the other versions, they would slick the hair back a little bit weird, to make it look like a quote unquote nerd or whatever. And they played around with their voices a little bit more so in the Christopher Reeve version. But Henry Cavill, there's no distinguishing between the two other than the hair and the suit.
Yeah, I mean, you can go on YouTube and find it, but there's a scene in Superman 2 that I still go back to that I thought was
the Niagara Falls version, the fire.
The genius of Christopher Reeve. He's always, as his Clark, he's always has his his shoulders slumped, and then but when Lois realizes he's Superman, he realizes that, oh shit, she caught me. You see him transform right in front of you.
He does the same thing in the first Superman.
It's
right
crazy.
after they do their flying
together. Right.
And Clark shows up like with a kind of like a fake date or whatever.
Yeah.
And he takes his glasses off, and all of a sudden he's fucking Superman.
Yeah, it's crazy. But this,
I mean, the way that Henry Cavill's Clark Kent talks to Perry, that's like him talking to Batman. It's like no different. There's no different in voice. There's no different in attitude. He's talking to Perry the same way.
Yeah.
As he would Superman.
So the argument that I've read a lot is that, he's figuring out, who he is and all this stuff, which, okay, fine. If that's the way you want to play it in Man of Steel, but there should be no excuse for it in the next movie. A year and a half later, he's been Superman, and he should have a very distinguished, you should be able to not be able to distinguish between Clark Kent and Superman because he's had time to develop both, or whatever. But that's just
not this Superman though, because he's too busy. He's too busy out on like oil rigs and Alaskan king crab fishing and bars.
So what did you think? Like at first, what did you think of the flashbacks? Because I think for me, I liked them up to a certain point.
I did too. I did. Here's you said it. You said it actually perfectly when you did it. Like I was trying to avoid this shit as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So much so that I only watched 2.5 of the movies. I didn't need to watch Wonder Woman again, and I really, really kicking and screaming had to watch half of Suicide Squad. But you put it perfectly when we were texting back and forth as we were going through this, and you said there's a really good movie here. And there is, because for the first time I watched this movie with not a lot of hatred. I just watched it like to watch it for this podcast. And I picked up a lot of new things. Like I said, every time I watch these movies, I find something else to nitpick at or to fucking hate in the plot, right? But as I'm watching this, I'm like, there's a really good fucking movie here. There's something that I knew they were trying to go for, and it's pretty evident with the emo, Superman or whatever. But if they just tweaked a few things, like I was thinking, that part in the bar, and this is how like I just don't understand what Snyder's doing here. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 army guys in the bar, and their specific purpose for the plot is that Clark overhears them talking about the ship that they're looking over, right? But they can't really talk about it, but he overhears them with the super hearing, right? So they're there, and that dick truck driver, right?
Yeah.
So there's 2 problems with this scene. First problem is you're looking at Clark, right? He's not wearing the fucking glasses, right? This dude, not only is he as handsome as he is, but now he's again wearing that flannel with his sleeves rolled up, and you can see he's fucking jacked. Right? So who decides to pick a fight with him after he tells him not to grab the waitress's ass?
The guy like half his size.
The guy half his size, and he's talking shit to him. I'm like, even if that's not Superman, even if this guy doesn't have heat vision, he should, there's no reason to pick a fight with him unless that little dude has like a Chihuahua complex, right? There's no reason so that's my first problem with this scene. The second problem I have with the scene is the 2 dick army guys are just watching this shit happen.
Right.
Like, they're just watching the shit happen. And I know I said this in the past, but what I didn't think about before was that if the army guy, this would have been such a fucking cool callback that nobody would have picked up on. So if the army guy helps Clark, right, in that one scene, and is like, hey, you need to relax and sit back down, and like he stands up for Clark, and Clark, obviously can't do anything, and he says something cool to Clark, like, don't worry about it, man, carry about your business or whatever. He says something to him, right? And then when the army guys are sent in to fucking go against Zod and everything, he saves that same exact guy, and like he kind of says the same thing he said back to him.
Oh yeah.
That would have been a really, and I know what you're thinking out there. You're like, well, he would have revealed himself as that other guy. I'm like, yes, but there's so many times that Zack Snyder had already revealed Clark as Superman in this fucking movie. It doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. No, I agree with you. I mean, I remember watching that scene too, going like, why would you pick on that guy? Like, he's twice your size. But what they really should have done is had like a huge dude, like a huge beer drinking, big truck driver that looks menacing and all that stuff. That would have been a little bit better. And then his little cronies, sit next to him. They're all big and everything. That would have been cool. Or they're biker dudes or whatever. But there's just no sense of.
I think that was like an homage to the truck driver guy from Superman 2.
Yeah, he kicked the shit out of Christopher
Reeve
that one time.
But I was thinking this, the second that dude got out of the truck, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's gonna have a thing with Clark in wherever they are. So I think that was just an homage, and I'm okay with that because it wasn't like blatant, but get somebody bigger.
Yeah, and not just that, but how. I mean, again,
that guy was, I think, the same height as the fucking waitress.
We always talk about coincidences too, and like those army guys just happen to be talking about a top secret ship or some object that's in the snow that's been there for thousands of years or whatever they say. And I'm sitting there going like, why would you be talking about that openly in a coffee shop? Like, why wouldn't you be talking about that in a truck, miles away, not where people are listening to you? So that was really bizarre.
Yeah, he just happens to be working in that same.
And Clark
unless there's like a cut scene.
Yeah, and Clark is really fucking good at getting jobs, like really, really good.
Without any legal stuff.
No, without any. Yeah, he's like
And apparently, Superman steals a lot.
He's like, he's like that guy that took that red paperclip and like traded it in, just kept trading it until the point where he got a house or something out of it or whatever it was at the end. You know what I mean? He kept trading the paper.
Didn't Dwight do that?
Dwight did that in The Office. Yeah, he started out with I don't remember what it was, like a tack.
Something stupid.
It was a thumbtack, and he worked his way up to a microscope or something like that. Or
it was really cool. That would be really cool in Justice League, and I'm going to say it now so that maybe I could get credit for it later. So there's a scene in Man of Steel where Clark finds the ship, and he's going through the ship, and one of the pods is open, but there's no body in it, right? And there's been rumor that it's either Green Lantern or Supergirl in this movie. It would be a really fucking awesome callback if they called back that scene, and that's where Supergirl was the entire time, like she got out.
Oh, yeah, that would be pretty cool. But wasn't that ship there for like 20,000 years, though?
Yeah, but you don't know at what point in time the sleep pod opened up.
Oh, yeah.
So, booyah.
Yeah, or Supergirl was the dead Kryptonian in there.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, we're not. I mean, they pissed away Jimmy Olsen.
Speaking of which, yeah, I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, like, how the fuck do you kill off Jimmy Olsen without telling anybody that it's Jimmy Olsen?
He just says, I'm James Olsen. And you're like, oh, cool. And then 5 minutes later, like, you're dead. I was like,
yeah,
what?
Like one of the major characters from the
he's
original.
He's a good-looking dude, and he's in the CIA, too. Like,
yeah,
what?
I'm like, yeah, I knew he was a photographer, and it's kind of like he was always a pussy or whatever, but you made him all... It was like the Supergirl when they got Jimmy Olsen to be like the 6'4" black dude who like, that guy's a photographer? Like, no. That guy's not a photographer. That dude's either a model or he's in the army, which would have been a better story and made more sense.
Oh,
in Supergirl.
He plays the Guardian, yeah.
Yeah, if he wasn't just a fucking photographer. But anyway.
Yeah, I digress.
there's a couple like things in here where you're just like, that doesn't make any sense. Where like, Jor-El's conscious was put into this machine, right?
Right.
And he would only have been able to do it the day before Zod tried to take over the planet because he was killed like 6 hours later, right? So there's no way he could have like predicted any of this stuff. And he says shit to Zod that is not about Zod's past, but about Zod's like present, and saying like my son is half the man you ever were. And I'm like, how do you know? Clark could be a fucking asshole.
He could be a serial killer.
You only met him for 5 minutes before he took off.
Yeah,
like you didn't train him or anything. You told him who he was, gave him the fucking suit, and said, "Get the fuck out, fly." So like, how do you know he didn't fucking realize? Like after you told him all that shit. Like, he just goes out and is like, I'm going to fucking rob a shit ton of banks. I could fly. I don't need to run. I could just fly everywhere and just steal banks.
Hey,
like, you have no idea.
My mom and dad taught me this world doesn't owe me anything, so.
Yeah, so I fucking took it all. You know, like, how does he fucking know that?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of plot holes in Man of Steel. And there's a lot of, a lot of destruction, which a lot of people were bummed out about at the end. They were like, "What the heck?" And also
I watched that scene too because we've been like very critical of that scene.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I'm like, you know what? You could have kept half the destruction in here if you had just changed a few scenes.
Right.
And I think I said this to you off air too. Was he should have recognized himself destroying Smallville, right?
Mm-hmm.
And saw the destruction that he did, and then he should have recognized that while he was in Metropolis, only he couldn't have. Like, all you had to do was shoot that one scene that he's recognizing that he's causing all this destruction from Smallville, and then you would have never had to, like, justify any other destruction that you did the rest of the time.
They did that in Superman too. I mean, they started messing up the city, and he flew away. And,
yeah, but he didn't. But their excuse in this one is that he just became Superman, which brings me to Jor-El. Like, brings me back to Jor-El, where it's like, you're like the worst sports dad ever. Like, you're the guy who's just like, here's, like, you don't tell your kid anything about football, right? You're just like, here's your helmet, here's your shoulder pads, here's go, and you don't tell him that like once you have the ball, 11 other guys are going to rip your fucking head off. So like he just stands there with the ball, and all 10 like kids just fucking destroy him, right? Like, that's Jor-El. Jor-El's like, here's the suit, go fly. Like, I don't even remember him saying like you can fly.
Right.
Like, how do you know he has these powers? Because you can only guess. Because again, you were dead at that point in time.
Yeah, the only thing that he said something that I caught. He said the sun is going to, like, the gravity or the Earth's sun or whatever is going to, make you stronger and all that stuff. And he does say something about other abilities, but he doesn't say what they are. He just says you're going to have other abilities.
Right.
You're going to be a god amongst men. But yeah, I mean, that's the other problem, is that he puts the suit on, he takes 1 or 2 leaps like Hulk, and then he's just flying. And then he just flies, and he's just like, yeah. And the next thing you know, he's fighting Zod and 2 other people, like he's a pro. I mean,
like, you name anything that you've tried twice where it involves movement, like skateboarding, rollerblades, skiing, driving a car, riding a bike, anything that you tried twice and you fucking nailed it. Like, he was doing. Remember, he was doing that quick flying through the canyons and shit like that.
Mario Kart.
Right. I was like, how the fuck did you learn how to do that shit?
Yeah, he's like a jet. He's like,
and then all of a sudden he was like, who? And I was like, and I at the point at the time when I saw them, I was like, oh, that's a really great homage back to Superman, where Christopher Reeve used to fly at the end of the movie.
Oh,
over
right.
the planet and go back. But I'm thinking, like, okay, not only did you just learn how to fly, right? You're doing all these fucking like figure eights and shit. How did you know that if you flew into space, you weren't gonna die? When did Jor-El tell you that? Where you're like, you can fly, but hey, by the way, you can also fly in space.
See, and that's what I love about the original, is that, the father dies, of course, of a heart attack, which is way different and better, I thought. And he tells his mom, he's like, I need to go. I need to find out who I am and all that. And he leaves and creates the Fortress of Solitude. And then he spends many years away learning how to be Superman from his dad, his real dad. And then he pops back up an older man and works at the Daily Planet, and there you go. But in this one, yeah, I understand, like, Snyder's trying to do something different, but don't do it for the sake of being different. Like, actually have a good reason, to do what he does. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, to do Superman this way. And then
Like,
so let's segue to Batman v Superman, because the thing
wait,
is,
let's going back to that other thing.
which other thing?
Well, back to just really quickly finishing Man of Steel, because Jesus, we've already talked a lot about this one.
Yeah, I know.
It's like there's so many things that are really just dumb at the end of this. Two things really quickly. The first thing is, well, before that, Christopher Maloney is just as dumb as fucking Batman in this movie.
Yeah.
So you just captured him, right? Or he gave himself up. He tells you he's going to do all this shit. He flies to the ship and he realizes he's been double crossed. He comes back down and you come up with this like I think he comes back down to the planet, and even though he just gave himself up and he didn't have to, Christopher Maloney says like, I've seen these people work like they're our enemy, shoot to kill, right?
Right.
And again, Superman is saving them left and right. And it is until he saves Christopher Maloney's ass where he's like, this man is not our enemy. And I'm like, you're fucking Batman in this. You seriously are Batman.
Yeah.
You've seen
your mom named Martha?
He gave himself up. Yeah, like that's what like seriously, he clearly sees that he's trying to help these people. Like, all you have to do is just open your eyes. If you don't know anything about Superman, you're one of those people in Smallville, and you see these two black figures in armor, black armor, trying to beat down this other person while this other person's saving all these army guys. You're like, oh, well, that's the good guy.
Right.
The one that's killing all the army people, that's the bad guy, right? And then I would be thinking on the sideline, why is the army trying to kill that good guy when he's saving your asses, right? And it isn't until he saves Maloney's ass that he's like, this guy's not our enemy. And it's the same thing with, and that's a good segue into Batman v Superman, because Batman v Superman, like, yeah, he destroyed Metropolis inadvertently by trying to save the planet.
Right.
And Batman's like, that son of a bitch brought the war to us. I'm like, no, he didn't. If you did, like, some detective work, since you're the world's greatest detective, you would have realized that Clark was sent here as a baby. A baby does not bring war to a fucking planet. And if it did, it's not his fault.
Right.
Because he's a fucking baby.
And he fought and he fought against them, when they did come. He fought against them.
And he stopped what, you would have known if you just read a fucking paper, World's Greatest Detective, that Superman saved the entire planet.
Yeah, because the planet, they were trying to terraform it, and he destroyed it.
Right. So, yes, he killed your one fucking guy who decided to stay in the building when he told
Like
everybody else to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, hey, because Bruce Wayne wasn't like, hey, get everybody out, but you stay behind. He was like, get out. Right? So he fucking stays there. That guy dies. Yeah, it sucks. A lot of people die in like a war, right? That happens. But it's not Superman's fault. It's not like he goes on and like just, keeps destroying garages like left and right for no reason when he sneezes or some bullshit.
Right.
Like it's not Hancock.
It's not
right?
Hancock,
like,
yeah.
Right? So like clearly everything that he's doing is good. And what he tells Alfred is so fucking non-Batman. He's like, if there's even a less than 1% chance, we have to take it as a certainty and destroy him. And I'm like, what?
Well, if that's the case,
the Joker who, if you read outside of the movie, killed your partner, and in the comic books, you still haven't killed the Joker. There's more than a less than 1% chance that the Joker is fucking evil and will kill again. And you let that piece of shit live.
Yeah.
But you want to kill the guy who saved the entire planet, and you're pissed off because like the war like brought down your building of the dumbass who stayed in there.
Your one friend.
And then even anything after that, everything that Superman does in this movie up until that point is still saving everybody. And Batman's like, oh, look at that fucker saving those bunch of kids, that asshole. Like, or like, look at that piece of shit saving that elderly woman with the fire, that was in the fire. Like, he's getting mad. He's getting madder that he sees Superman all the time because there's a less than 1%. He's that guy.
Yeah,
that like hates like.
He's getting madder and madder because Lex. Well, you don't know until the end, but Lex has been sending him letters with like color,
the
like
same
red letters.
writing.
Yeah.
But like that's the fucking stupid thing is that you're the world's greatest detective, or supposed to be. You don't even research that shit. You know, like, who's fucking taunting me? I should probably check.
Yeah.
Is this Superman taunting me? Like, I don't see any like Kryptonian residue here. It's probably not Superman, but you know what? There's a less than 1% chance that Superman fucking with me, so I'm gonna take it as a certainty. There's like a 10% chance that Alfred might kill you in your fucking sleep because you're a dumb fuck. But you let Alfred live.
Yeah, that whole less than 1%. I'm like, what are you, a Sith Lord? What's going on here? Like,
dude, so going through the movies in my head and like watching Man of Steel and Batman v Super and Superman Side Squad, like, so Man of Steel makes me sad watching it now because it could have been such a really good movie.
Yeah,
there's so many good things in this movie, in Man of Steel, and like there's just 4 or 5 major plot things that just fuck up the movie and the character development of the Jonathan and Clark.
Right.
Batman v Superman makes me fucking mad.
Yeah,
because
whole thing
it
is
is
just angry.
it is so they took all the faults of Man of Steel and spray painted it in just all over Batman v Superman with the problems. Everything that I hated about Man of Steel is every 5 minutes in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
And then Suicide Squad makes me want to kick babies and club baby seals. It's so goddamn stupid.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second, but this movie should have been the ultimate awesome movie, and I've argued incessantly with people about like you got to watch the ultimate edition because that will change your mind. Like, that is the ultimate version of this movie that should have been in theaters, blah blah blah, whatever. And so I took it by the word and said, okay, I'll watch it. I watched the ultimate edition. It's actually 30 more minutes of scenes that piss me off even more. It's like and
everything with Jenna Malone was dumb.
Yeah, everything with Jenna Malone. All it was, like, literally Amy Adams for 2 movies is a detective. Literally for 2 movies. The first movie, Man of Steel, all she does is she figures out that Clark Kent is Superman.
Right. You know the scenes okay, so you know a scene they actually put into the Ultimate Edition? Which is when the bomb goes off.
Oh, and
they should have kept.
He stays
by to help. Yeah. You don't know that in the theatrical version. You just assume it.
Right.
Like, well, why would I assume it if this Superman doesn't give a shit?
Right.
Because you've given me a Superman that's like, yeah, I'll save people, but I don't really want to.
There's 2 major things that they did. One is you had a lot of Jenna Malone talking to Amy Adams about the stupid bullet, and also about, she reveals, like, oh, the thing was lined with lead, the wheelchair that blew up. And that's when Amy Adams goes, oh shit, he can't see through lead. Well, they never, ever, ever say that in the theatrical version. So I remember when that movie was over, I was like, how the fuck did he not be able to, like, he just scanned that thing like in 2 seconds? Like, what's the deal with that? And then I was like, well, maybe it was made out of lead. I don't know. And people online were just like yelling at me. They're like, it was made out of lead. I'm like, well, how did you know? Like, how are you supposed to know that? Or the average moviegoer? Like, so many things were explained in articles or YouTube videos versus what happened in the movie. It's fucking irritating.
Yeah, there's things they should have cut out that they left in, and there's a few things that they cut out that they should have left in.
Yeah.
Superman helping somebody, explaining the fact that it wasn't Superman's fault.
Instead of bouncing, yeah. But the other thing is even in the Ultimate Edition, the firefighters, like, or the EMTs, like, we got it. Essentially, like, shooing him away, And like, we got it from here, and Superman's just like, oh, huh. It's like, dude, that thing is still, the building's still on fucking fire. Go blow it out. Go do something else.
Piss on it or something.
Yeah, super piss. Yeah, it's like, do something else. It's like, nah, I'm gonna bounce, and I'm gonna go to Lois. I'm gonna complain to her some more, and then I'm gonna go hike up a fucking mountain. I'm gonna waste a lot of time.
Before I leave Lois's, I'm gonna fucking peel out like an asshole. And wake everybody up. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck. Why can't this Superman just like slowly glide up where he's not breaking the sound barrier or concrete? Every time this guy fucking takes off, the city's got to fill up that fucking pothole.
Alarms go off.
Right, exactly.
People's eardrums are hurting.
And like, here's this awesome part, right? So I'm watching this movie again. I'm like, oh fuck, it's like 3 hours long, right? So they get to the scene where Batman's about to throw the tracker on the truck that has the kryptonite in it,
right?
So he could kill people in his Batmobile. So I look where he's standing. I'm like, wait a minute, that warehouse looks familiar. So, you know where Lex Luthor decided to fucking hide Martha Kent?
In the same warehouse that they got.
In the same fucking warehouse that Batman tracked him from.
Not only that, but Batman Batman puts a tracker on it. That means, hey, I'm gonna wait and find out where this thing's gonna end up before I go there.
Yeah,
but
instead of like destroying, like instead of destroying the entire fucking pier.
Yeah, that just made absolute no sense. I'm like, why would you put a tracker on something and then like go and destroy it? It doesn't make sense. It's like
chase it down. Yeah,
yeah. You wait till it stops.
Did you forget to turn the tracker on before you fired?
I was half expecting someone to go, "What was that noise?" Oh, there's a tracker on the door. Like, get it off there.
Yeah, because it was pretty loud, right?
Yeah, he shot it from like really far away. You know,
it's really dumb too. Like in this scene, I think you might have mentioned it, where like clearly Batman's chasing down some bad guys, and Superman just like stops Batman. Like, maybe I should like help out and then stop Batman before he fucking brands them.
Right.
And then, but I'll still help. No, not this one. He could have fucking killed Batman.
Oh, just standing there?
Just standing there. He like if he didn't see him in time and just didn't click his back wheel, what if he was coming around the corner and Superman stood too close? And it's a fucking head-on collision, and he just fucking kills Batman.
Yeah,
because
he's basically like a cement pillar or like a steel girdle.
Yeah,
he's I mean, he's anything that ran into him would just rip through it like tissue paper, would just trashed. Not only that, but he tells him, he's just like, "You're done as the Bat. You're over." And he's like, like Batman's gonna be like, "All right, I'll go home. Like, I'm done." It's like,
did you see my fucking car that you just destroyed? Do you really think I'm not in? Do you think I'm not all in this?
Like, where's the plot hole? Where's the plot where, he gives him his insurance card? He's just like, "Hey, Superman, you asshole, you fucking damaged my car. I need your insurance information. Don't where are you going?"
Clearly, this is not a souped up Corvette.
Yeah.
This is fucking custom shit.
Where are you going? Get back here.
And instead insurance information first.
Right. Instead of Superman like going after the bad guys after he stopped Batman, he just like bounces again. Just like, like those guys had machine guns, whatever. Batman, he started it. So
I mean, because if he was a good reporter, he would have known that, like, even though he's like taking it to the extreme, that he's only taking down the bad guys. So that means, it's not like Batman was fucking chasing down a bus of nuns.
Right.
He was chasing down some fucking bad guys
that were shooting with like a 50 caliber gun, just like.
And oh my God, I fucking hate Lex Luthor in this so much more. And I found out another reason to hate Lex Luthor in this movie. So Christopher Nolan's Batman is, the silent guardian, right? Zack Snyder's version is, I'm coming through the front door and I'm fucking everything up. Front door fucking everything up to get the kryptonite, right? So Lex Luthor comes in the rain in a fucking crotch rocket motorcycle. Right. He's that kind of asshole that you see on the road. Like, dude, you don't look cool. It's the fucking rain. You're gonna kill somebody.
Yeah,
that's how big. That's what kind of dick Lex Luthor is. He's that guy who he was in a white jacket and a white helmet and a white motorcycle. If that doesn't says douchebag, I don't know what does. And he did it in the rain.
Yeah, Batman is not okay.
He's not subtle.
Batman is not subtle. There was a scene in the beginning.
Sucks at hide and seek.
Yeah, there's the beginning where he's like sitting in the corner with the light on him. And the cop's just like
so fucking stupid.
Doesn't see him. He would have saw him when he walked in the room. He doesn't see him.
Yeah, but the only reason the audience doesn't see him is because Snyder pans the camera down and far to the right.
Yeah.
So, but when the cop looks back up, Batman's like 3.5 feet away from the light in the middle of the room.
Yeah, it's like an eye level.
And it's a really So, but it doesn't matter because from the distance that the cop comes into a room of that size, that dark, that light, and that one light, you would have saw him first, then saw the guy on the ground. Because Batman's like 6'3". Like, there's a giant guy in a black suit and a cape in the corner of your fucking room, your bedroom. You're not going to see that. You're not, and it's not like he was hiding in the shadows. He's literally hiding 2 feet from the fucking light. Like Like you can't
It
see
looks
him for
so
some reason.
awkward
Like
too.
he thinks humans' eyes are like the T-Rexes, and it works based on movement.
Cop
If I
won't see
don't
me if I
move,
don't
this
move.
cop will not see me.
I think it would have been cool, like if we rewrote that scene. I think it would have been cool if it was much darker where he was, like the light was only on the bad guy that was being
Where it would make
branded.
sense that he's actually hiding in the shadows.
Well, no, I mean just yeah, like it's much darker. He's hiding in where he's hiding, and then the guy kind of hears a rustle over there, and then looks, and then the eyes like turn white or something like that, like something.
Oh, that would be.
You know what I mean? And then he like freaks out, starts shooting at it, and then it like disappears. I'd been like,
Right,
that's
right.
all. I'm like, oh shit, like okay, because like pretty much every other Batman movie we've seen in the beginning, they do this thing where like he's in the shadows, you know, and you can't quite see what it is, and it's
Nope, not in Zack Snyder's version. It's right in plain sight.
He'll pop up and he's like, "I'm Batman," and beat you up.
It's
You
like
know, and you're
right
like, "Oh,
there.
shit." Yeah, it's so awkward. What'd you
Yeah,
say, like
he's like
grandma's
on-
boy? It's
Yeah,
like,
grandma's boy.
Yeah.
Who's like puts the leather jacket over his face. Is like, how did he see me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh fuck.
So that's
So
a big
dumb.
Batman problem. Number two, he's the worst detective like ever. He doesn't, know, he doesn't research anything. And then there was a third problem. Shit, there's like a million problems.
There's some weird things that are in Man of Steel and in Batman v Superman. There's like no safety for medical procedures in this movie. In these movies. So in the beginning of Man of Steel, you see the birth of Clark, right? Or Kal-El.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's no like towels, there's no water, Jor-El's not even wearing gloves. Like there's nothing there. Like if like if I knew somebody was giving birth right then and there, I'd be like, all right, get some hot water, get some towels. Anybody have any gloves? Like, these are the things I would ask for, right? Jor-El's supposed to be this smart guy who knows that the whole planet's blowing up, but he doesn't wear fucking gloves to help his wife give birth, right? And then fast forward to Batman v Superman. So Lex wears gloves to slice the dead skin off the Kryptonian Zod, right? But then he doesn't put on gloves when he actually puts them on his fucking fingers.
That was gross. I was like, why are you doing that?
And I'm like, how do you know that Zod didn't have some fucking Kryptonian STD?
Yeah. Put him on a mannequin hand or something. Like
put him on a fucking glove.
Yeah.
The same glove you just used in the other scene to take his fucking finger. You thought it was sanitary enough or like not safe enough when you were cutting his finger prints off, right? You thought it was necessary then, but then you thought it wasn't necessary when you actually put them on your hand to use. Like
I don't know, man.
Stupid.
He's gross because he was putting like a sucker into an old man's mouth, and then he like licks. Then he like sucks on his fingers.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
So fucking.
It's
weird,
like it's just as creepy as like Jared Leto's fucking Joker. Like Jared Leto's Joker and and Lex Luthor are like the same person. I swear.
I know. So one last thing about Batman v Superman that really bugged me, or that we were talking about, was like the end battle. So like he clearly, again, he sucks at research, and he's also a really good guesser. Like he guessed that he would be able to lure Superman to the kryptonite spear that he, for whatever reason, put really far away from the battle. That made absolute no sense.
And then he uses bullets.
Yeah. He uses this like sonic thing, which, I thought actually was kind of cool. I was like, oh shit. Like while you got him in that sonic thing, like shoot the kryptonite shell at him so it blows up and he sucks it in.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like,
right.
That's a perfect time to do that. And then
nope, doesn't do it then.
And then throw the spear at him, dude, dead, done.
Right.
Like, no, I'm gonna piss him off. Like I'm gonna hit the hornet's nest as hard as I can with a bat, and all the hornets are gonna swarm around me, and then I'm gonna.
You know what would have been really smart? If he really instead of like making that shiny spear that obviously took forever, and then making all that gas. Why don't you take the rest of that kryptonite and put it in the bullets?
Put it in the bullets. Put it in your armored suit. So when he tried to fight you, he couldn't fight you.
Because then if you fired those giant machine guns at him, it actually would have done something other than piss him off even more.
They would have turned him into Swiss cheese.
Yeah,
Game
he would have
over.
been dead. He would have looked like what's his face, Sonny Corleone in The Godfather.
Credits done.
Yeah, done. Batman wins, and Martha's dead.
Yeah, that never made any sense. The timing issue in this movie is so stupid. Like when they do finally stop fighting, and he's like, hey, they got my mom and everything. He's like, Batman's like, I'll take care of it. You go take care of the other shit. So like the time that it takes Batman to fly and find out where Martha is, beat all the bad guys, save her. What, Superman is still flying to where Lex Luthor is, which is literally, they just said he's across the bay. So obviously the timing issue is completely
especially off. Especially knowing how Superman takes off like an asshole.
Right. It would have made much more sense if Batman takes off to go deal with Martha and Superman can't quite fly yet. He's like, oh, I'm still recovering. I'm all fucked up, and Lois is like talking to him and trying to pump him up.
Or because you didn't know that Lex held Martha in the same fucking building. Like you could have had
another scene.
Batman go fly and deal with Lex and Superman go find him.
Well,
because I'm pretty sure Superman would have taken care of those guys a lot quieter and faster.
The building had no lead.
No, it had a glass top.
It had a bunch of henchmen with bullets that Superman could just take out, no problem.
Right.
And so there was no real
and he could have just like sneezed and not had his mom burned from that fucking flamethrower.
As soon as Batman shows up, that dude should have just torched her. Just boom. Oh, Lex must be dead or something. Like, something must have went wrong.
He waits the whole time.
Yeah, he waits the whole time. He just sits there and waits. And Batman gets the drop on him. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things in this movie that don't make any goddamn sense. And it drives me crazy.
Like, you mean Clark walking up to a mountain and then seeing his dead dad making a rock pile for no reason whatsoever?
Yeah, and telling him a story that he never heard before. And I'm like, so basically, Clark, you made that story up in your head, or is this Transformers heaven again? Like, what is this?
Or is this another Inception moment?
I wish the Flash. Oh God, that was another part where the Flash just pops up and he's just like, "You were right."
After he dreams.
Yeah, it's a dream
after
within
his
a dream.
first dream.
Yeah, dreaming about.
It's a dream within a dream about the possible future.
Yeah, the 1% chance.
That?
Oh shit.
That's I want to call that Snyderverse when shit doesn't make sense.
That's the 1% chance. I knew it.
Less than 1% chance.
Yeah, less than 1%. You're right. Jesus.
It would have made so much more sense if he was having a nightmare about other Kryptonians coming down and Clark or Superman being the king of Earth now. Yeah. That would have made more sense because you've already seen the other Kryptonians, you've already seen Superman. That would have made sense. But he's dreaming about fucking the Omega symbol and Darkseid and parademons, and he's never seen any of this shit.
No, he's a normal human too. He doesn't have any powers. And
the Flash, when he travels back in time, he doesn't travel back in time to somebody's fucking dream.
No, he pops on a computer, like it's a 4K computer. He's just like 3D. He's like, hello.
Jesus, I'm glad I didn't give you a heart attack. You are kind of old, Bruce.
And then, like, I'm just wondering if Justice League, if he shows up to talk to Flash, and he's like, hey, like, you popped out of a computer, like a month ago, and you told me some shit. You remember this?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or he probably wouldn't say it because it was in a goddamn dream. And nobody's going to join a team with the leader being fucked up in the head.
So speaking of fucked up, let's talk about Suicide Squad really fast.
This was painful. So my main question of this entire movie can be summed up in one question. What are bullets, a climber, baseball bat, military guy, sharp teeth, a fire, katana blade, boomerang gonna fucking do against another Superman?
Yeah, the whole argument.
Because that's how she pitches it.
Oh yeah, the whole argument is if another Superman shows up, we need to be ready to fight it. And so let's bring criminals that don't have any superpowers except for one, I guess the Enchantress.
I'm telling you right now, the only person that probably lives if they wanted to attack Superman, the probably only person that might have lived was probably like Katana, because she probably would have gotten escaped in time because she's quick. But everybody else would have just been done. That's it.
I don't know.
What's Deadshot going to do? Shoot him in the eye?
Right.
Like what's he gonna do with bullets?
What is Boomerang gonna do? He's gonna throw a boomerang at him, hits him in the head, and he's like, at the end.
That's like if you were like a train was gonna run you over and you threw a stick at it.
Yeah.
Fuck. The hell is a boomerang gonna do? And what's like Killer Croc gonna do? Like try to bite him? You serious? The Man of Steel, asshole. What do you think is gonna happen to your teeth? And then Harley Quinn. What the fuck is Harley Quinn gonna do?
Hit him over the head with a bat. That'll work.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless that bat's made out of kryptonite.
This movie absolutely, from beginning to end, makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Like none. It would have made more sense if they had to transport these guys from one
to a different like country,
from one jail to the next or whatever, and some catastrophe happens where they get broken out and they got to work together to get through some shit. That would have made more sense. But one of their own members turns on him, and they get activated because one of their own members like starts creating this like garbage in the air that's going to destroy the world somehow.
The witch who is from like Aztec like days, right?
Yeah,
like
they were
Inca type days
that humans used to.
So her way of destroying the earth is not to use her magic, but to use her magic to build a machine to destroy the earth.
Which, how would she even know what a machine is?
I mean, maybe she can tap into the scientist.
Yeah, I guess.
But still, that's how the fuck does the scientist know how to build a doomsday machine?
Why does it take so long to destroy the earth? It's like, what was the machine supposedly doing?
It's like the Dark Knight Rises. We'll give Batman 8 months to recover from his back wound. even though we know we're gonna blow up Gotham anyway in 8 months, let's just wait. But anyway, that's a different fuck up thing.
Well, and then when they establish a universe like this, we talked about this before, but like, why didn't Batman and Wonder Woman show up? You know?
Yeah, because it's the end of the earth type thing. Like, where's Batman? Batman's like, I don't even know where this takes place.
I don't fucking some city. I don't know. I don't remember. But the thing, they should have.
Batman should know about this.
But they should have treated it like one of those movies where they got to go for a certain distance from here to there, and they have all these obstacles to get through. Which they did do that in the movie, but
they did it on like an area where superheroes actually exist.
Right. Exactly.
And like, because the Flash exists in this movie because Boomerang's faced him before,
right?
So like, you don't see the Flash showing up to flying fucking garbage and stuff like that in the sky. You just had an alien invasion. You would think if you see flying garbage in the sky, you'd send a lot of fucking shit towards it.
Plus, he's so fast. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna go check this out to see if there's anything I can do.
Yeah.
He just
that dickhead's throwing boomerangs again.
Yeah. So you got like, the beginning of it was kind of promising because they showed all the guys, all their abilities and why they were in jail and all that stuff.
I did have a problem with the beginning with Deadshot when you find out how he got caught, Batman. When he gets knocked down, he holds his gun like a gangster, and Deadshot's supposed to be like this like great marksman.
Right.
He would know not to hold the gun that way, like a gangster.
Yeah.
He would not hold the gun that way if you're like a good shot. He wouldn't do it. That part bothered me. It's like when I see Arrow and his arms bent, or Hawkeye when he's shooting the bow and arrow. It just bothers me because you clearly don't know how to shoot a bow and arrow, and you're supposed to be really good at it, but you don't even know how to fucking hold it. It's like watching that old guy in Major League. What the fuck is his name?
In the movie? Throw the ball.
Yeah, like he clearly can never. He's clearly never thrown a baseball in his life.
Right.
And like he's supposed to be better than Charlie Sheen, who actually looks like he can pitch.
Yeah, because I think Charlie Sheen did pitch. Like
he did play baseball. Yeah, but the guy before him, Harris, is his name.
Yeah, who was
he doesn't look like he's ever thrown a baseball in his entire fucking life.
No. Major League. I actually hear the rebooting that, which I'm just like, fucking why?
No.
I actually liked the first one. I didn't like the other two. Were so stupid.
I liked the one with Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
That was the fourth one, I think. Back to the Minors.
Oh God, like there's actually a fourth one.
Yeah, that's the Scott Bakula one.
Okay, I didn't watch that one. I like Scott Bakula. God damn it, they need to put him in some good shit.
Yeah.
But No, this movie's so terrible because it really. I mean, if
It
you
does some really dumb things.
you got to sit down and just look at it on paper. Even it makes absolute no sense. Why? I mean, you could argue, you could say like, well, they put together this squad of people so that you could go against, you don't have any, like, they're expendable.
But they
Like, I
should be
get
doing
that.
Black Ops type stuff, not
Right.
saving the world type shit. Because
No, or going to,
again, baseball bat, a guy with sharp teeth. Like what this guy throws a fucking boomerang.
yeah, they
Like,
did it better in Hellboy. You know what I mean? Like in Hellboy,
yes, yeah.
they did it way better there. They masked them under, they hid them, and these,
But the point is that these guys are would be good for Black Ops stuff. Like they would be an elite Black Ops team, right?
right.
But end of the world shit, like you actually have people with superpowers that could help better. Like the Flash could have ended this movie in like 2 seconds.
Oh yeah. You could
He-
have
all he-
grabbed the heart and ran. Up, done.
Yeah, done. Anything else? Cool. I'm gonna get some coffee. Like you guys are fucking useless. Amanda Waller, great plan. I just did your job in like 2 seconds. You
Right.
suck.
Yeah.
And then when Waller gets actually rescued, right? I understand the flares thing is if you're getting like missiles shot at you, you want to use the flares to distract any kind of incoming missiles, right? Okay, fine. But there's a certain reach physically that those monsters have, and you flew directly into that range. You're a helicopter. Like, why didn't you fly higher?
Right.
Higher is safer.
Well, that's
But
always,
instead, you did the exact opposite. You
always
just
the
flew
argument.
really low to the
they
ground.
did that in King Kong. They did that in Cloverfield. They never fly high. They're just like, oh, let's go down there and see what's going on. It's like, no, fly high, get away.
Yeah, this giant monster with like a 400-foot reach is not going to touch me.
Jurassic Park. Like, there's a bunch of movies where they do that, where the monster just reaches
Dumb.
them. Yeah.
It's like you got a submarine and you don't fucking sink.
Yeah. No, this movie, God, I mean, it's our longest podcast too, the review on that movie, which if any of you haven't listened to it yet, go back and listen to it because we go into major detail of that movie. But yeah, the other thing, after watching the very end of it, it made me Maddie all over again because that scene could have been so awesome. Again, it's fucking Bruce Wayne talking to Amanda Waller. It's not Batman. It's not, it's Bruce Wayne telling Amanda Waller, who literally killed her whole team. He's telling her, shut it down, or my friends and I will, or whatever it was. And I was like, dude, she's a badass. She's not going to listen to you. It's like, but if you're Batman and you just pop up and, behind her and start
in her fucking house.
Yeah, and take her shit and leave. That's much more menacing. That would be cause for her to start drinking and shit.
Yeah, not only that, but you just revealed your fucking identity again.
Oh yeah, she's like, you're looking mighty tired. All these over like late nights or whatever. She knows he's Batman. It's
but he's not making it any unobvious like you see in fucking the trailer for Justice League. Where
he's not making it obvious because he's asking her about metahumans. Like Bruce Wayne would not do that. Batman would go, give me that briefcase and bail, and she's like, what do you want with this? And he's like, none of your business. Like, and shut your shit down. And then he takes off. It's like, oh, that would have been badass,
Yeah.
But no, it's Bruce Wayne doing it. It's like, God damn it. Like, he's like Lex Luthor in this movie. Like, what the fuck, man? Shit. It's like just when you think they couldn't change these characters even more, they find a way.
And I like Amanda Waller's character in the comics and in the cartoon.
Yeah, but in this movie, I mean, I liked her at certain points, but again, her character made absolute no sense either. She's like the most senseless person in the entire movie. She's completely senseless.
And she's got a terrible plan to stop Superman or a Superman-like person.
Right.
Like she first pitches it to the one guy at dinner, right? Then she pitches it to all the military guys, right? These are military like generals and shit.
And they all say
like,
no. They're like, "Fuck, we're not doing this." And then
nobody says like yeah, but nobody says like yeah that like okay, so that witch can clearly do shit, but what is a baseball bat gonna do against the Superman?
Yeah.
And like, and then I would have been like, the next thing I would have said is like, are you fucking serious with this boomerang guy? Are we actually are gonna we're actually gonna try to stop Superman with a guy who throws boomerangs? Like
Right.
none of the military people say the most obvious things. Like, so you have a sword. This little girl right here, this little woman has a sword. What is that going to do to Superman?
Right.
And then like the climber guy, what the fuck is he gonna do against Superman? He can climb any surface. So what's he gonna walk up to Superman and start climbing on his shoulders?
Fucking Boomerang.
He's gonna
Boomerang
hang
punks
him,
him, man. He punks him so bad. He's like, dude. He's like, let's just get out of here. Like, just go or whatever. The dude goes and he gets blown up. I was like, it's so dumb. I'm like,
and then Diablo, right? The guy Diablo, who I really liked in this movie.
Yeah.
He's fire. What the hell is fire gonna do to Superman? Why don't you just throw like snow at him? Like unpacked powdery snow. Throw that at Superman, because everything you have on this list is not going to do shit against him.
Any of you Krypton, from Krypton? No. Okay.
Are the boomerangs made out of kryptonite? No. Well, what the fuck? If they're made out of wood? Oh, great. Let's just throw wood at Superman.
Yeah, and why aren't you picking them back up? Why are you throwing them and not going to get them?
Yeah, they're not like the Batarang. They come back to you. Well, actually, this version of Batman, he leaves his Batarangs fucking everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah, he's like, hey, I stole the kryptonite, Lex.
There's no stealth to this guy whatsoever. He hides right at the light, and he leaves the fucking Batarang right in the middle of where the kryptonite was.
Right.
Clearly, by that point in time, he's already destroyed and kicked the shit out of everybody, and he doesn't think to get the kryptonite is sitting right next to the Batarang. He couldn't just fucking take them both.
The only thing he didn't do was to like screw Lex's assistant as Batman. Like, he did everything short of like showing up at Lex's house to be like, hi, like, and pulling off his mask. He did everything else, everything up to that point.
Yeah. Oh God, this fucking movie.
Yeah. Well, the DCEU, I mean, did end on a good note. I mean, with the fourth movie, Wonder Woman, even though like I've watched it 3 times now, and it has its problems as well, but they're nitpicky problems. The No Man's Land scene alone is so awesome and powerful, and the whole beginning part where they're showing her growing up, that's all powerful. One thing that kind of bugged me a little bit was her aunt, dies like epically, and you're like they don't really give any time for emotion of that either. It's like she dies and they're sad for like a minute, and then next thing you know, Diana's like, I need to get out of here with Steve. We need to take off. So there's not like,
well, at least they didn't tell a joke afterwards.
Yeah, it's not Thor, but they don't really like kind of sit with that. They just kind of move on really fast, and also the ending. There's this whole ending sequence.
Yeah,
that's still, to me, I mean, the movie to me was really, really good up into that point. And then also I noticed the third time around is that the bad guys like Dr. Poison and then that other dude that keeps sniffing something that makes him strong and shit, which they never really explained what the fuck that was. But like those two, if you watch that movie very carefully, it's like Boris and Natasha or something from what do you call it? From Bullwinkle. They're just like bumbling idiots. Like, and the way that they talk are so over the top. They're like a caricature of really bad, like Russian, the way that people, they portray Russian people or whatever, or German people. So it's terrible. Like, I was cringing every time they opened their mouth and they were saying something. And then the reveal that he was Ares at the end was not surprising, because I was like, well, he was a bad guy in Harry Potter. He was the wolf. Well, he's not a bad guy in that movie, but oh, he's the wolf. So I'm like, well,
Not to mention that DC told you that he was.
Oh yeah, Ares. Oh yeah. Like at IMDb, there he is. And
they didn't even try to hide it. Like, so what was the whole point of keeping it a secret?
I don't.
If you were just gonna tell us before the movie.
Yeah, I don't get that either. Also, I didn't get. Was there a timer on the bomb that Steve was flying around in?
Yeah, I think so.
There was, because he shoots it himself.
No,
he shoots it.
Yeah, there was no timer.
He blows it up himself.
I think, right?
Well, he blows it up himself. I didn't quite get that. I was like, wouldn't he search for a parachute, like fly this thing to a safe distance, jump out of it?
It's the same thing. It's the same dumb thing that happens in Captain America.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't.
Where Captain's like, "There's no time." You're like, and you could be like, "No, Steve, you got plenty of fucking time.
You got plenty of time."
Yeah, New York's really far away. You know, just set it to autopilot. You know, to go into the ground, and then that plane that you just flew on into this plane, get on that plane and get out.
Yeah, I was like, you know, even in the Batman Rises, he didn't have any. The Dark Knight Rises, he hadn't any time. He just flew it over the ocean, then it like fucking blew up, and you kind of only.
Oh yeah, he should have died.
Yeah, you
like even if he jumped out at like 13 miles away, he'd still get hit by the fucking blast.
Oh yeah, he would have drowned or some shit would have happened.
At worst, he should have had fucking like radiation poisoning
or concussion.
Like where you see that scene when they're in like Italy or whatever, and Alfred sits down. He should have saw like a deformed Bruce Wayne. And then Alfred like freaks the fuck out because he doesn't recognize him because he's all fucking burnt. He's all fucking like deformed and shit. Looks like sloth. And then like Alfred calls the cops on him.
Instead of Catwoman, it's like a nurse, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And then Alfred calls the cops on him because he doesn't recognize him. That's not Bruce Wayne, right? Because it's fucking sloth. He's all fucked up. Calls the cops on him, and then Bruce Wayne like goes to jail for the rest of his life for looking like that.
I just see a nurse like he's like in a wheelchair. She's rolling him around and shit.
He's like, kill me.
Alfred, please.
You remember that guy who got like in toxic waste in like RoboCop? That guy.
Kill me.
That's the guy sitting. Yeah, he's like, kill me. See, that's the guy sitting across.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy sitting across from fucking Alfred.
So Alfred takes
that would have been
to his head and just
that would have been more realistic. And then wait, he takes him back. He convinces him that he's like that he's Bruce Wayne. So he takes him back to the Batcave because nobody's gonna recognize him. And then all of a sudden you see that guy from RoboCop dressed as Batman. Credits.
Oh God.
And then he's like, and then he tells Robin, he's like, I got this. Like all fucked up and shit.
Yeah.
Cue the Hans Zimmer music.
It's still though, that's not that far off the realm of what they're doing right now. It's like they just can't quite get the bad guy right. You know, even the Marvel movies are having a difficult time doing that. There's not really any real stakes.
There could have been some good movies. Like I really think The Mandarin was a really lost thing.
Yeah. But so speaking of Wonder Woman, you know, I was watching it at the end when Steve died. Like the argument is, well, when Steve dies, that's when her real powers kind of pop up because of her emotions. It's always about emotions. It's like, why somebody kill a dog in front of her or something? Why, like Steve Trevor dies and she literally like a god
just met.
Yeah, look, literally like a god, she floats up and just destroys Ares, you know. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is like 70 80 years before Batman v Superman, and when we see her fight for the first time, like us as an audience, she's not doing those same powers against Doomsday that she was against Ares.
No, right.
And so I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense, you know.
Well, that's what you get. Well, there's no foresight, obviously.
Yeah, and I keep hearing that the sequel to Wonder Woman is going to be like, what, in the 80s or something like that.
Oh,
so,
I can't wait.
So, you know, again, I can't wait either. But at the same time, what are the stakes? You know, because
clearly she's going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Unless the Flash like grabs her and throws her into the future.
Unless there's like an inception dream that she's in the future. It's like, no, you can't stay in 1980. You got to come fight this like guy that this dickhead Lex Luthor created.
You're gonna be sexually harassed by a Hollywood mogul. So you need to get out of here. You know, like fucking don't go into that audition tomorrow. Stay clear.
The other thing I hated about Wonder Woman, not hated, that's kind of a strong word, but the fact that when the whole Ares fight happens, it's reminds me of Zod fighting Superman.
Yeah.
Where like they're just throwing each other into the concrete, and it's like, let's see who can throw each other higher or whatever bullshit, and like they're just fucking up concrete. Like I don't know what it is about these DC movies, but they just don't like concrete. Concrete gets fucked up all the fucking time in these movies. Right. Like everything gets fucked up.
At least in this movie, she fights against actual people and not like charred, weird, people like in Suicide Squad. You know what I mean? Where they just like, so that way they could be as violent as they want, in Suicide Squad, where they're just like lopping people left and right. There's actual people that she's beating the fuck out of, and obviously,
well, technically, those are actual people, though. Yeah, in the black thing. Those are actual people.
Well, I know, but because they're dressed up like it's like stormtroopers. You can just shoot them all day long. You don't see anything, But at least in Wonder Woman, it shows her just beating the shit out of people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But Ares to me was, once she showed her full powers, he turned into a pussy. I was like, all right, well.
You're the god of war, right?
yeah, exactly. What exactly? Like Thor shows up and he's just like, "I'm the god of thunder,"
Yeah, but still, like he at least shows off that he's actually the god of thunder. Like the god of war just is like, "Oh shit, she's got lightning. I'm fucked."
yeah. It's crazy. Anyway, but. Yeah, so that's the DCEU in a nutshell. 4 movies, 3 of them major problems. 4th one was, the light, and now.
Oh yeah. And now we hope that this movie is Wonder Woman-esque.
Well,
not just good is basically.
I'll tell you what, man. I didn't have any faith in this movie, Justice League whatsoever. I don't have, and we're still a week away. I don't have any faith in it, but after seeing like 7 or 8 clips online, which I don't know why they feel the need to show you half the movie already online, but seeing those clips makes me not want to watch this movie even more. Like if we weren't doing this podcast like in a normal situation, I would not pay money to go see this movie that's coming up. That's just my opinion. Like I literally could have waited for that to come out on DVD. I would have read all the spoilers and looked at all the people bashing it or saying good things about it. I would have read all that shit and then waited 3 months, 4 months for the movie to come out on DVD and then watch it then. Because the clips that I have seen, and I've told you this before, I think offline, is that it is actually everything I thought the movie was going to be, but even worse to me. That's just, again, my opinion. Other people out there are probably like, no, screw you, dude. I love these movies. And that's fine. But for me, it's just another like, like, oh man, we fucked this up even more kind of thing. Because as soon as you say reshoots, as soon as you say majority of the movie was reshot with a different guy, a different writer, all that stuff, and it's disjointed, kind of like how Suicide Squad was, that number one worried me from the beginning. But number two, most of what looks like, Zack Snyder's vision, his tone is still there. Number three, we littered this thing with jokes, which if you guys listen to our Thor thing, it's not exactly a good thing. You need a healthy amount. You need a healthy balance. A Batman movie is not supposed to be jolly and funny. No. In fact, DC movies to begin with don't need to be jolly and funny. I thought
just like I said, Thor didn't need to be the joke teller in Ragnarok. Batman doesn't need to be telling jokes in this. He's the straight man.
No, and and the line where he's just like, what's your superpower? And he's like, I'm rich. I thought, oh shit, that was pretty good. Like, why did you?
Yeah, but then you spoiled it.
Yeah, you just fucked that up. And why'd you do that? It's like, leave that good shit for the movie. You got Aquaman surfing like fucking Flintstone, and I'm just like, Jesus.
I've heard, I've heard that the movie's fun, whether or not that means like fun, like, oh my God. See, the problem with some of the stuff that Snyder does in the action, it's just fucking chaos.
Yeah.
It's just massive chaos. And there's nothing fun or like, I've seen chaos before. I don't need to see this. Right. So like every single chaotic, like main baddie fight at the end of these movies always look kind of the same. Like, again, Ares fighting Wonder Woman and Zod fighting Superman.
Right.
So it's just like two superheroes just beating the shit out of each other. I've seen all this shit before.
But what
he does really well is he films certain scenes, but he doesn't like ever see them through. Like I said before, my favorite shot still after watching Man of Steel this week is when Superman is in the courthouse and it blows up.
Yeah.
And there's a gorgeous shot where he's just surrounded by fire and he knows he was just set up.
Yeah,
and it's like, fuck, man, no matter what I do,
missed opportunity, right, man. Like,
and like, no matter, it's like he does this great job of like, you know, almost like teary eyed. He's like, fuck, no matter what I do, shit always hits the fan with me. And that would have played really well if it was more developed of like his emo-ish type thing, you know,
right.
like, you know, I keep doing all this stuff, like, but shit keeps happening. And that was a gorgeous scene. And in the theatrical version, you get from that to Batman reading the letter, and then the scene cuts.
Right.
You know, and yes, in the Ultimate Edition, they put that one scene where he's kind of looking around, and it kind of hits him a little bit, but it never goes back to that because the next time you see him, he's bitching to Lois on the fucking balcony.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talked about this before too. That Batman v Superman was essentially supposed to be Man of Steel 2. Like they said, like, oh,
that's what Zach said.
He's like, this is Man of Steel 2. But Batman's like the Tony Stark of he's the guy that is leading the charge, so to speak.
It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be Superman.
Yeah. And so in any indication in Justice League, I've seen clips where he says like Superman, we need Superman. He's the guy that's got to, bring us together or whatever. It's like, oh, now it's like you fucking like you wanted to kill him 2 seconds ago. And
then he said Martha.
He said Martha, you go save his mom. Then he dies.
And then Doomsday. All was forgiven.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, oh,
what happened to all that less than 1% chance talk?
Yeah, well, I guess 99% chance that he's a good guy. Well done.
So is that now like a 1% chance? Like less than 1%?
Batman doesn't know how to do math. He has no idea. It's too hard for him.
So every villain out there should know, if you really want to get out of jail free card from Batman, just say save Martha. Right. And then he'll freak out. He'll just revert to like a little child wanting to save anybody named Martha.
A guy that's an alcoholic and you bring him to you force him to go to a bar and put a bunch of alcohol in front of him. You could say, hey, there's a really good high percentage that he's going to take a drink versus... Or like a guy that has like held up 3 banks and, killed people and all this stuff, that if they would let him back out in society, there's a huge high percentage chance that he would do another crime. I mean, all that shit makes sense, but his reasoning behind Superman makes absolute no sense, because you could say less than 1% chance about anything, about anything or anybody, any situation,
All the criminals that he took down, it's more than a 1% chance. All those criminals that and this Batman, like, you want to say when he's out and about, he'll protect himself and kill these people. Fine. But he's branding them still, knowing full well that these people are getting killed from his brand.
Yep.
And he's still doing it.
Yeah. Because
so it's
and the fanboys out there are like, he's doing it because Robin was killed by the Joker. And it's like, well, okay, how did you figure that out? I saw it in a YouTube video. It's like, okay, all right. Well, or the argument about Aquaman's trident.
That would mean like you would just if they released the director's commentary for Showgirls, it would have been like an Oscar winner.
It's like the argument
would have explained everything.
The argument is always like, well, it's in the fucking comments, the comics, you dumbass. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. It's because
it doesn't work for Star Wars. It doesn't work for here.
No,
like we say,
doesn't. It doesn't.
Like why is General Grievous coughing? Well, if you watch the cartoon Clone Wars, Mace Windu caved in his chest. You're like, well, how the fuck would I know that? I'm like, right, because that's shitty storytelling. Yes, it's bad.
Because you're supposed to tell it within the context of the universe, the movie universe, not. I mean, you could put stuff from the comic in there that are Easter eggs and shit like that, but that's not an Easter egg. That's a major plot point. You got to put in the fucking movie.
Usually the movies that are really well have all the major plot points in the movie.
Yeah, like show him.
If Robin is the catalyst for this Batman, you probably should have shown us that instead of your fucking Martha and Thomas Wayne snuff film.
Right.
We should have saw that instead.
Yeah, I don't...
because that's not the reason why this Batman is fucking pissed off. It's not them. They said that whole shit just so that everybody knew who Martha Kent was, or I'm sorry, Martha Wayne was, or Martha, when Superman dropped the name. That's the whole reason for it. There's no other reason for it, because I watched it again, and every time they show that scene, it's Martha who has the more memorable scenes. And when he's in the grave or the crypt, you see Martha's name. So it was like they were trying to do it subtly, so that when they named Superman, name dropped Martha, like it was like, oh my God, no, not knowing that, like, hey, that's kind of dumb, because he was ready to kill him over the entire planet. Remember that whole less than 1% shit?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're best friends because he said his mother's name, who's not actually his mother.
He might as well have said, like, I like the color blue. I know you like the color blue too. Like, oh shit, I shouldn't kill you.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah, exactly. It's Step Brothers 2. I'd fucking see that movie. No, the thing is like, and people have argued me about this. They're like, oh, these are the new 52 characters and this and that. It's like, I have no problem of you changing who the characters are if you can tell me why or show me why they are the way they are, and then have them grow.
It just has to make sense within the context of the movie.
And have them grow as characters. But like, Superman hasn't grown shit. He's the same, if not worse, from one movie to the next. And Batman, we just met. So like, we don't know why he's angry and killing people.
Because they have told us religiously that this is not Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Yeah, it's like that. Okay, fine. That's fine. It's like, give me a little scene where, like, he's looking at the Robin's costume, and then there's like a little flashback of Robin getting the fuck beat out of him by the Joker or something like that. Something, whatever it is, and have Batman too late. I mean, that would be devastating for anybody who's a superhero.
And then you would understand why the fuck he's killing everybody.
Why he's so angry. Yeah. Right. And you see Joker get off. You see him go to the asylum instead of jail. All that stuff where he's just like, God damn it, the system. Fuck this. I'm going to start maiming people. I'm going to start branding people, because that way, they're still going to jail, but they're getting their shit, they're getting killed in jail. It's like, that's my way of doing my justice. And it would make more sense. But like, you got these people that are telling me like, oh, well, Snyder said in an interview with Entertainment Weekly last week that it was the Joker that... It's like, fuck, I wanted to see that in the movie. I don't want some idiot to explain that to me outside the context of the movie.
It's like Zack Snyder's making a movie like VH1 makes pop-up video.
Oh, shit. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Here's the Robin suit, and just so you know, Bruce Wayne's pissed off, or Batman's really mad because the Joker killed the Robin.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's why he's mad.
And the whole thing with Lois Lane running around after the bullet, I mean, all that is it's just horse shit. And people that tell me that the Ultimate Edition rounds out the movie, no. You want to know what an Ultimate Edition is?
It finishes
go watch Lord of the Rings. Go watch Lord of the Rings.
It fills in certain plot points
ones, the lead
that
and
tell
the
a better
wheelchair.
story that kind of. It does fill in a few gaps, but the problem is there's so many gaps in this movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is our road to Justice League. So when this releases, it'll be Monday. We are going to see it, or I'm going to go see it at the Esquire IMAX. Yep. Like always when it comes to superhero movies, because IMAX is definitely the way to go for this. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch it, I think, Thursday at 6 o'clock or something like that. I think it's the premiere night. But, so this was the road to Justice League. It's the 4 movies in a nutshell, hour and 20 minutes later. And also, before we go, I'd like to remind you guys to go to patreon.com/chew on this podcast, where you can become part of the Chew Crew for as little as $1 a month. And we could really use your help, because we like to do a lot of cool things, and we have a lot of cool things coming up. And then also hashtag West Coast Wawa, because we want Wawa to get their ass over here from the East Coast. They need to come to the West Coast, because we're craving their sandwiches and coffee. That's for sure. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we've talked the shit out of DC stuff today.
Yeah, and we got a whole lot more to talk about. Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah.
Usually our longest podcasts are about things that we were really pissed off about versus happy about. Anyway, all right. Well, that was episode 108 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
Until next time, folks, chew on that.
Later.